This podcast contains our own personal views, not associated with any organisation. Coronial contains descriptions of death inquests that may be graphic and disturbing to some listeners. Discretion is advised. So welcome back to Coronial, everyone. Thanks for joining us again. I'm Alice.
I'm Emma.
And I'm Georgie.
So this week I'm going to be telling you about the inquest into the death of Jessica Jackson on the 14th of November 2017 from multi-organ failure caused by hyperthermia and dehydration while Jessica was weight cutting in preparation for a Mauy Thai fight. This inquest was requested by Jessica's mother in the hope that similar deaths could be prevented in the future. Jess, as she was known to friends and family, was born in Queensland but moved to Western Australia when she was very young. At the time of her death, she was 18, studying a Bachelor of Arts with a double major in global politics and security, terrorism and counter-terrorism.
That sounds intense.
Yes, it does, doesn't it?
Yeah, okay.
She worked part-time at a sports store and wrote a fitness blog as well.
Yeah, okay, she's high achieving.
Yes, very. Her mother described her as intelligent, hardworking, eager to please, and wanted to be the best she could be.
So I feel like that's, potentially most mothers' descriptions.
Possibly, but I think it was backed up by a few other people as well.
Okay.
Jess got into Mauy Thai kickboxing as a hobby about 3 years before her death and became very passionate about it. She was not known to have injured herself or pushed herself beyond her limits in training, but she did still push herself quite hard for an amateur. Jess trained at a local gym with her sister and a friend. She and the friend were trained by the friend's partner, who was nicknamed Rhino.
Okay.
Not relevant to the inquest, but it was just enjoyable. Jess competed in a fight in 2016, which she won. To prepare for this fight and to meet the weight class she had entered in, Jess and her friend ate a restricted diet and increased their exercise. They also limited their water intake in the week leading up to the fight, but still did drink water. It's not like they stopped completely.
And what was the weight class? Was she a particularly petite weight class? Just like out of curiosity.
Yeah, it was, but I think it was fairly close to what her weight was at the time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So she didn't cut a lot.
Not a huge amount, no.
Yeah. But she obviously was still having to restrict to get to that class.
Yes, which I will go into it a little bit later, but that was a very, very common thing.
Mm.
Yeah, okay, but she wasn't sitting like halfway in the class and just decided to restrict. She was restricting to get to a lower class.
A lower weight,
yeah.
During the few days before the weigh-in, they reduced their water intake even more, but still drank enough to not be dehydrated. On the last day before the weigh-in, Jess did not eat or drink and walked around the neighbourhood in a sweatsuit. She...
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, it's very common
in
this sport as a way to reduce your weight.
Yeah,
it's
like
just
people
sweat it all
walking
out.
around in like plastic bags and stuff, right?
Yeah.
She reached her goal weight, which is a few kilos less than her usual weight when training, and having met weight, was able to compete.
Weight classes just...
I know.
It sounds so bad. Anyway, go on.
But at the same time, I see why they're there, because that way you have more evenly matched opponents.
Yeah, but
It's to protect the competition.
But if you meet the class and then you actually drink for the next 24 hours, like, are you weighing in immediately before your fight, or are you weighing...
I don't think they do.
No, we will go into this more. It's the day before your fight.
It's just not accurate because they're doing all these things to change their weight.
Yeah.
And so it's not making a fair match if, like, one person's doing it and the other isn't.
Yeah, but you assume that both are doing it.
Yeah, everyone does it.
So if everyone does it, then, like, change some regulations so that everyone is just upper weight category and you go, it's
Yeah,
OG.
but that's not going to stop the problem. Like, because people are still going to try and cut weight. But, like, how much weight are you realistically going to gain in 24 hours as well?
We will go into this a little bit later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
After this 2016 fight, Jess started dating another fighter from the gym and became involved with a younger group of fighters. She stopped training with her friend and previous trainer because they had both left the gym in October 2016.
Okay.
Didn't really go into why.
Yeah, I was like, why?
They might have moved, who knows. On the 12th of August 2017, Jess's mum told the owner of the gym that Jess wanted to enter into another fight. So the general process was that the fighter or their parents...
She was underage, yeah.
Well, she was 18 at the time. I'm not sure when her birthday was.
Yeah, okay.
But her mum was quite involved in her life. So the fighter or their parents would specify what weight they wanted to fight at and when they wanted to fight. If there was an agreement between the fighter or the parent and the gym owner with that chosen weight and time frame. The gym owner or trainer would submit their details to a promoter who would then find a suitable opponent with the same weight and similar experience.
Mm-hmm.
So that you're trying to have an evenly matched fight.
Yeah, right. So it's not such a big sport that, like, there's heaps of people entering in competitions that happen and, like, on this competition you're therefore just going to get matched with whoever else weighs in at the same.
I think they have, like, contests, but they're not as big of a deal, I don't think. And especially for women, there weren't as many women in the sport.
And stuff, yeah.
So when a match is found, the gym owner or trainer is provided with the opponent's details and the date of the fight. They then pass this information back to the fighter or their parents, and if everyone agrees on that opponent, then the promoter is given the go-ahead to arrange the match. There's quite a few people involved in the process of setting up a fight.
Yeah, so you wouldn't want to back out, hey?
No, you wouldn't.
Yeah, okay.
So Jess's mum indicated a certain weight that Jess wanted to fight at, which was somewhere around 5 to 12 kilos lower than her current weight.
Whoa, okay, that's a lot.
But was slightly higher than the weight she had fought at in October 2016.
Oh, okay.
But she might have been, like, putting on muscle and stuff like that.
Yeah, because she's a late teen. That's when you're bulking. Like, not, like, purposeful, but that is just when your body starts putting on muscle.
Yeah. So her mum's setting this all up and being okay with her entering into a class that's 12 kilos below her standard body weight?
Yes, because I guess they were sort of involved in this culture of the gym where that's just what you did.
Yeah.
Not necessarily to that level,
but
everyone did it. And she was sort of trusting in that Jess knew her body, knew what she was doing, and would have some advice on it.
Yeah, okay.
The gym owner countered with a higher weight, which was about 8 kilos lower, because she hadn't fought for some time and to make it easier on her. Because obviously losing that much weight in a short amount of time is just really awful. Yeah. He remembered that Jess's mum confirmed the lower weight, as it was close to her weight at the previous fight. Jess thought that she would be able to sort of get back to that at no problems because she'd done it before.
Yeah, okay.
The year before. It was thought that if she fought in a higher weight category, that she would have a bigger and taller opponent and therefore be at a disadvantage.
Yeah, okay. Seems fair, I guess.
Yeah, which is the whole reason. They did go into it that most people in the industry said that a couple of kilos could actually make a difference in a fight when you're having that sort of manual, close contact.
Okay.
It can actually make a difference in
and
pushing someone over or whatever.
You are looking to be classed in a weight class, you always want to be at the very high end of that particular weight class.
True.
You want to make sure that you've lost enough weight so you're out of the bottom end of a weight class and you get to the top end. But I feel like 12 kilos is you're probably at a good end of the higher weight class.
Yeah.
She's trying to cut like a whole weight class rather than just cutting a few kilos to get from the bottom of the weight class to the top.
Yeah. The gym owner thought that the higher weight would be easier on Jess, but that the lower weight was quite easily done.
Sure.
So there were people in her life that were like,
just
it's not going to be
12
easy,
kilos.
but it is possible. On the 13th of September 2017, Jess was offered a fight at very close to the weight she had wanted to fight at, and the fight was scheduled for the 11th of November.
Okay.
So she's got 2 months to prepare.
2 months. Okay, yep.
To prepare for the fight, Jess initially went back to training 3 times a week, with each session lasting about 3 hours.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
That's a lot of time that she's putting into this.
Yep.
After a couple of weeks, she increased this to 4 to 5 times a week. She trained on her own or with a fighter's training group and didn't have any one-on-one sessions with a trainer, nor did she have a close training partner like she did for her first fight. So she didn't have as much support around her, or like sort of knowledgeable support around
how to
her
do it
that
safely.
She did the first time. Jess also restricted her diet, and her mum gave evidence that another fighter had told her to eat only chicken, brown rice, and broccoli. After 3 weeks, Jess was frustrated as she felt she wasn't going to be able to get to the fight weight in time. She spoke to a professional fighter who also trained at the gym, and he told her about water loading. So this is a weight-cutting technique that involves drinking a lot of water initially to trick the body into flushing more water out at the end. So basically, it's as a diuretic, but without using any banned substances like a diuretic.
Yeah, right. And you do that just around your workouts?
Yeah, you're doing it at the same time as you're doing all of your workouts and all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Yep.
So this professional fighter had been fighting for 14 years and over time had worked out what regime he needed to follow before fights. But he also consulted a nutritionist and a pharmacist. And like being at the professional level, he had much more support when it came to what he needed to do.
For himself.
And he also had figured out for his body, this is what he needed to do to do it safely and to still be able to fight effectively. Like you still want to win the fight that you're going into.
Safely is a loose term for this.
Very loose term.
Because like I'm not sure that there is a safe way for you to water load and use it as a diuretic for yourself for professional fighting.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're essentially just tricking your body into doing something. Like that doesn't seem like it's
and you're
a great
also
thing to do.
Like at no point are you listening to your body.
No.
Because your body is telling you all the completely opposite things.
Yeah, your body's probably like screaming out because it's like I'm so hungry because I'm exercising so much.
Yeah.
And you're not feeding me properly.
Yeah.
And I'm just drinking a whole lot of water.
Getting no nutrition.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He spoke to Jess a few times in the 6 weeks leading up to her fight. He warned Jess against fighting at the lower weight, and he did tell her that weight cutting was dangerous.
Okay, good.
He suggested that she talk to the gym owner about going up to a higher weight, as her goal before the fight should be on getting fitter and stronger, not focusing solely on meeting that weight class.
That's some really good advice.
Yeah. The gym owner knew that Jess was going to be using the water loading method to get to her fight weight. He stated that this technique is commonly used in the sport, and it's not uncommon for fighters to lose up to 15 kilos or more in the few days leading up to the weigh-in, and then put this back on in the next 24 hours.
How is that physically possible?
No idea.
Yeah, you're just basically a sultana, and then you go back to a great plater. 15 kilos, like
that is a lot of weight.
I don't think most people went.
And like, I guess it's proportional to like, you know, if she's a 45 kilo individual and she's losing 15 kilos in weeks or, you know, in the few days, that's horrendously dangerous. But if she's a 90 kilo fighter wanting to get down to 75, that's a little bit different, but still dangerous.
Yeah, absolutely. That water loading technique is mainly used to get a weight advantage over the opponent, as being the smaller or lighter fighter is more dangerous. Yeah. Because you are less strong, you have less mass behind you to be able to use your body.
But she already knew what weight her opponent was coming in at, right?
You don't know until...
Yes, you know what weight class you're both going to be weighing in at, but you do not know what weight they're going to be at the time of the fight.
You know they're going to be between, and I don't know how big the weight classes are.
Their minimum's going to be whatever fight weight you've decided on. While the gym owner said that there was no safe practice of cutting weight, he said that water loading was the safest way. The safest way of the unsafe ways.
Let's just focus on this. No safe way.
Yeah.
So his understanding was that it was more dangerous to try and sweat out the weight and be dehydrated and undernourished all week, and that with water loading you should be full of food and water all week, be nourished, and even on the last day you're meant to be sipping water or chewing ice, like taking in some level of hydration. It seems that this was not the case for Jess, as she was not well nourished with food or water, did not drink anything on the weigh-in day, and was still focused on losing weight through sweat.
This is making me as angry as Jessie's episode, but Jessie was just unwell in the cubicle and we were angry versus this is just weeks of poor encouraged behaviour. Yeah.
So in September 2017, Jess texted her boyfriend that she had some female fat burner tablets. I don't know where she got them from, but she had them. And she was considering using them, but he warned her against taking them. And there's no evidence to say that she did end up taking them.
Female fat burning tablets?
Oh, they're just like something you buy in the pharmacy.
But what makes it female?
Oh, no idea.
Because that's the brand and the marketing they've put on the bottle.
Right.
I'm sure if you looked at the male ones, they'd contain the exact same thing.
Yeah.
In late October 2017, Jess texted her sister saying that she still had heaps of weight to lose and intended to get some laxatives.
No, stop this.
She also mentioned that she'd been running in a sweatsuit, and her sister encouraged her to rehydrate. And again, she actually sent a text to her sister asking her to pick up some laxatives for her, but there's no evidence to say that she actually did that or that she took them.
Yeah, okay.
Even if she did get them. On the 3rd of November, Jess went to an appointment with a doctor to renew her fitness certificate. So this doctor is a consultant emergency physician with a special interest in sports medicine and has been involved in combat sports for many years. The fitness certificate was required yearly for combat sports participants and involved taking a medical history and fight history, as well as doing a physical exam, which included checking blood pressure limited urinalysis, and a serology certificate. It didn't mention what particularly they were looking for in that serology certificate.
In a fight and there's blood contact, I assume it would be a bloodborne diseases serology.
That makes sense. Yeah.
That's me making some assumptions here.
That makes sense. They didn't go into it in the inquest, so. The aim is to identify chronic injuries or illnesses that might stop someone from competing in that next year, because you're doing it yearly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The doctor remembered Jess as being a normal, fit, healthy girl, and they didn't discuss her weight, because it wasn't relevant to that fitness certificate, because that was just, can you compete for the next year?
Yes. Okay.
In the week before the fight, Jess took time off uni and her job to prepare, with the help of her boyfriend. He had been participating in Mauy Thai since he was 14, and had been in about 19 fights. So he was relatively experienced when it came to, like, the amateur level.
And so, like, did it go into... Is this something she wanted to progress, like, a semi-professional career in? Like,
they didn't really go into that, no.
Okay. Because, like, to take
she was
a
keen
week
to
off...
be in more fights.
Yeah.
But, it didn't go into whether...
To take a week off of work and uni and whatever just seems like a lot to me.
It could just be a hobby that she really enjoys.
Yeah,
like.
True.
I think that's, by all accounts, it was just a hobby that she really liked. Her boyfriend didn't think that Jess would meet her fight weight, but didn't want to seem unsupportive, so he tried to help her.
Sounds like basically all of her family and friends were doing that for her.
Yeah.
Like, everyone was like, this seems like a lot, but we're going to help you achieve your goal.
Yeah, or at least not
discourage
you, yeah.
Well, no, some people did make statements like, this seems like a poor choice.
Yeah.
So, look,
Jess started water loading on the 5th of November, so 2 days after that fitness certificate. On the first and second days, she drank 8 litres of water a day, and then reduced it by 2 litres daily. On the 6th day, it was down to 1 litre. And on the day of the weigh-in, as I mentioned earlier, she didn't have any water at all.
Yeah, wow.
At the same time as she was water loading, Jess was taking hot baths with Epsom salts, running, training in the ring, and wearing a sweatsuit. And the sweatsuit completely encloses your body, like long sleeves, long pants. And she was then also wearing thick socks and a beanie on top of that to stop any...
And this is November in what state?
WA.
That's so warm, probably.
Yep. So early in the week, Jess told the gym owner that she was struggling to make weight and was going to water load. He contacted the promoter and asked if Jess could go into the fight weighing more than she had agreed on. The promoter spoke to the opponent, who said that she was already under the fight weight.
Ugh.
So because of the weight advantage involved in combat sports, the promoter said that Jess could enter the fight with 1 extra kilo, but no more.
Yeah.
On the morning of the weigh-in, which was the day before the fight, Jess was still about 2 kilos above the weight limit, and she tried to lose this weight before the weigh-in that afternoon.
By having 0 water at all and presumably exercising heavily to get even more of that water away.
Yes, yeah. So she didn't drink any water. She sat in a sauna and a hot car. She had hot baths and trained at the gym both inside and outside. And Jess described this process to a friend as the worst experience of her life.
Because it was killing her.
Yeah, it sounds like torture. She continued to weigh herself but still had not met the limit. And there's also some mention in there, I think on her social media, she was like putting updates. And there's at one point where she's like, I'm not sweating. But they didn't see that as a red flag at the time. She continued to weigh herself, but it's still not met the limit. She was exhausted, but kept going as she wanted to meet weight. Jess went outside to run again, dressed in a full-body sweatsuit and beanie in about 30-degree heat. After a short time, she collapsed and was unresponsive. Her boyfriend removed the sweatsuit and beanie, and she was taken back to the gym while the ambulance was called, because I think she was a short distance away from the gym.
But she was with people.
Yes.
No.
Yeah, her mum was there. I think her grandma was there. I think her sister was there.
Oh.
Yeah, there were a lot of people around.
Okay.
The ambulance arrived and she was taken to hospital. Despite treatment, she died on the 14th of November from multi-organ failure due to hypothermia and dehydration.
And sorry, what was the 14th of November? How many days later was that?
4 days.
Okay.
So she was on support of some sort?
Yeah, I think they were doing everything they could, but it just, in the end, her organs couldn't take it anymore.
Yeah.
And they were sort of talking about, they took her clothes off to try and cool her down, but they didn't do any active cooling.
Like we talked about with the hyperthermia episode.
Just because they didn't know that that's what they needed to do.
I guess she was out running on a 30-degree day, but the average person isn't going to overheat like that because the average person isn't in that full body suit.
Yeah. and not that dehydrated. And that was the thing, that she seemed tired but okay, basically up until the point that she collapsed.
Oh, wow.
Like, she was
compensating,
clearly
like
not having
young
a good
people
time,
do.
and she wasn't, she wasn't having fun.
Yeah.
But she wasn't obviously unwell until she collapsed. Jess's mum believed that Jess continued to try and reach the fight weight because the sport put pressure on the contestants to not shame the gym, the trainer, and the promoter by not being able to fight. And also that it was disrespectful to the opponent. She didn't think Jess would have felt confident to ask the gym owner to withdraw from the fight. So there was a whole culture of sort of shame around, well, if you pull out, that means that other person doesn't get to fight either. The promoter doesn't get to host this fight.
Yeah.
And I presume make money somehow. I don't know how that really works. And like, you're then seen, I guess, as a bit of a quitter just because you couldn't
make weight.
Yeah.
That she'd been discouraged to try to achieve in the first place.
Yeah, she had been warned against being at that lower weight. So the evidence showed that Jess spoke to a few people, like including friends, about the possible dangers of water loading and weight cutting. But it was more it was a hypothetical. She never thought that that would happen to her.
Yeah.
It was the opinion of the doctor involved in combat sports that weight cutting was the most dangerous part of the sport. Like, you're getting kicked in the head. Actually, the weight cutting is the most dangerous part.
And it's really counterintuitive because I would love to see someone turn around and say, actually, no, the getting kicked in the head is the worst part. Because that's what should be the worst part.
That should be the most dangerous part. Yeah, but it's not. In March 2015, he told the Combat Sports Commission that same thing, that he thought it was quite dangerous. Same-day weigh-ins were discussed, but there was a risk that the fighters would then not be rehydrated enough by the time of the fight, leading to a higher risk of head injury. And so that's to do with already having neurological insult due to the dehydration, as well as the decreased spinal fluid volume, which gives the brain less protection.
Okay, yeah.
So they're thinking that people are still going to be weight cutting, they're just not going to have time to rehydrate.
Yeah.
He suggested that random weight checks might be safer to determine a fighter's, quote, walk-around weight. So, like, they're just normal, standard training weight.
But this is the thing, when she signed up for the weight that she wanted, they knew what her standard weight was.
And they knew what her weight was at the time, yeah.
So they knew what the change would need to be to make it there. So, again, there needs to be some sort of, well, if you're booking for in 2 months' time to have a fight, there can't be more than this percentage body weight difference to what your current body weight is now.
Yeah, so it's interesting you say that because the doctor had also suggested that fighters could only apply for a contest with 5% of this walk-around weight, like with a 5% change, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so for comparison, when Jess saw the doctor for her fitness certificate, at the time she was attempting a 12% loss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is more than double what he's saying, what he considers to be safe.
Yeah.
The Australian Medical Association recommends that all combat sports be banned.
Excellent.
That is their main recommendation, that you just do not do them.
But that's interesting. So all combat sport, that's a lot of sports.
Yep.
That's Olympic sport, that's...
Yeah.
But in the interim, before they all get banned, which, let's face it, probably isn't going to happen.
That's too much money in it.
Yep. Their recommendation is to increase the time between weigh-in and the fight to 72 hours to allow for proper rehydration. So they were sort of going at it more from the hydration point of view than the weight cutting point of view.
But again, it's permitting bad behaviour.
Yeah.
So at the time of Jess's death, the role of the Combat Sports Commission in contestants' weight was focused on making sure they came under the set weight for the fight. Like, that was the extent of their involvement to make it a fair fight, essentially. In their guidelines and conditions for combat sports registrants, which was in place in 2017, a contestant could be deemed unfit to compete during the pre-contest medical, because they had a medical examination at the time of the weigh-in, and then I think just before the fight, and then after the fight, just to check for injuries and that sort of thing. Yeah, they could be deemed unfit to compete during the pre-contest medical due to dehydration, but it doesn't actually seem that this happened in the real world.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, I mean, what are they doing to define that?
Could be.
Yeah.
And they did go into a lot in this inquest, which I didn't really touch on, that they looked into how they can try and measure someone's dehydration.
Oh, okay, cool.
And essentially came to the conclusion that there are currently no reasonable consistent tests that you can do across the board to measure someone's hydration level.
Yeah.
Because, they looked into urinalysis and, like, DEXA body scans and a whole bunch of other things.
You can't body scan someone every time that they have a fight.
And
that's not practical.
And the main issue with that as well is that, you're then performing a radiological procedure on someone
who's an 18-year-old female.
Yeah,
they could be pregnant.
Not covered by Medicare.
No, you have to be pregnancy tested before you fight.
Do you?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
They cannot risk you fighting pregnant.
Yeah, that is absolutely fair, but
that would be covered in the pre-medical assessment.
Yeah, fair enough. So since Jess's death, the Commission brought out the Contestant Safety Strategy to address rapid weight loss, in brackets weight cutting, by dehydration, which includes information on weight cutting, the dangers of doing this, and actually specific information about Jess's death due to weight cutting.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It also included 3 pillars to address the practice: weight assessment, regulation, and education. So they have adopted weight class conditions to address weight cutting. These conditions involved an initial weigh-in within 24 hours of the fight, then a secondary weight check within 2 hours of doors open at each promotion. If the fighter is 10 to 15% above the upper limit of the agreed weight class, they would receive a warning in the first instance, and then any instances after that would cause the Commission to put a condition on their registration that they have to go up a weight class.
Oh, okay. So AMA was really focused on making sure that you're then hydrated by the point of the fight.
Yep.
Which I think that just therefore is actually having the negative effect where it's saying cut, but then only rehydrate enough so that you don't have more than a 10% gain, because otherwise you'll get bumped to a higher class. So I think that's not quite addressing the right factor.
Yeah, and the doctor who was like a big witness in this inquest sort of talked about that fact that he was still at risk of people fighting while they're dehydrated.
Yeah, which is actually worse.
And so I think this is something that the Commission is open to amending if they if they find a better way of doing it.
Yeah, this is a Band-Aid.
Yeah,
this
is a reaction
better.
to this has happened and we'll see how we go with it.
Yeah.
Amendments would also be made to the fitness certificate to include contestants' past contest weight, current weight, and proposed contest weight, so that contestants and doctors can work out whether the upcoming fight weight can be achieved safely. So previously that annual fitness certificate didn't include any of that information. Like it had their fight history, but that's as simple as I've fought 3 times in the past.
Yeah.
The regulation pillar also included banning the use of sweatsuits, saunas, and other devices used to dehydrate.
But how do you regulate that?
Exactly. And something they mentioned in it was that the Commission has, I think it was 4.5 full-time positions. So they do not have the ability to be able to regulate this, but they're sort of hoping that by banning it, it will set a standard, and they're sort of relying on the gym owners and the trainers to enforce that within their gyms, and it's a good place to start.
It's banned, but you just replace it with something else. Go out for a run in your jumper and your thick socks still, and you're still going to sweat. You don't have a sauna, that's fine. She sat in her car.
Yeah.
Or, you just turned the shower on really hot and just stood in the steam for ages.
And they talked about the fact that that's obviously banned in gyms. Yeah. But what you do in your own home is completely up to you. You might have a sauna in your house.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you're banning it, does that just leave a risk for more unregulated, worse alternatives?
They're trying to stop it. Like, they're trying to change the culture completely. In terms of education, the Commission now requires all contestants to do an online education assessment and be provided with information about the dangers of weight cutting. There's also a video included where Jess's mum talks about what happened to Jess.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
So she was really involved in trying to make this safer and educating people.
Mm-hmm.
As of the inquest, the Commission had begun implementing the education pillar, but the other pillars were delayed due to COVID.
Yeah.
Because this inquest was released in 2020.
And let's be honest, there wouldn't be that much Mauy Thai going on.
No, because all contests were banned, so they can't regulate or change something that's not happening.
Yeah.
The coroner made it clear in this inquest that it is important to change the culture in combat sports to remove the emphasis on extreme weight cutting as part of the normal process of preparing for a fight. If fighters are encouraged to enter a weight class closer to their walk-around weight, there is less risk of them using unsafe practices to meet this weight. The focus should be on a culture that encourages them to safely train and manage their weight loss and preparation before a fight, and work towards peak performance, which wouldn't involve depleting their strength and energy with weight cutting.
Yeah.
Like, let's focus on having better performance, more strength, rather than on depleting yourself and not being able to perform as well.
Yeah, I am honestly surprised that there's not more muscular
the focus is not necessarily
involved.
Building muscle or... Like, you need to be fit to be able to do it. I guess that's more of the standard stuff that you're doing throughout the year.
Yeah.
And then the weight cutting is happening just before a fight.
But then if you weight cut, you are going to lose muscle if you're calorie deficient.
Yeah. The coroner urged all people involved in the sport to take their own steps to encourage this new culture and start talking about the dangers of weight cutting. Because pretty much everyone involved in the inquest was like, yes, this is good, like, we need to get rid of this, it's dangerous. But everyone was a bit skeptical as to how they can do that. And so the coroner was like, well, it starts with you.
Yeah.
If you start talking about it and you start encouraging people not to do it and advising them not to do it, then that's how you start that cultural change. You need to have everyone doing it. You can't just have a coroner saying you shouldn't do this anymore.
Fair.
So the coroner's first recommendation was that the Minister for Sport and Recreation consider amending the Combat Sports Act and Combat Sports Regulations to allow the Commission to be more involved in regulating trainers and gyms to improve combat sports in Western Australia, so give them that ability to regulate and monitor.
Yep.
And that any additional resources needed for this be funded by the state government.
Oh. Okay. That's big.
Yeah.
The second recommendation was that the Commission consider a scheme that requires contestants to provide their weight at time of registration for a fight, which should be at least 7 days before a fight, in addition to the current system of weigh-ins on the day before and the day of the fight. That information can then be used to determine whether the fight will be safe before the formal weigh-in process starts. But the thing with this is it would need legislative change to the regulations, so it would have to be considered with that first recommendation.
Yeah, okay.
And yeah, that doctor who was involved, he was suggesting 6 weeks before a fight, taking a weight then.
Yeah.
And sort of doing more regular
determining
weight checks.
Yeah.
But the problem with that is that you might not be registering for a fight that far out.
Yeah.
There's some differences in terms of how far out from a fight you actually register for it. Like, there are some cases where it's a week before.
Yeah. At which point, there needs to be definitions of what's safe weight change between 1 week out, 2 weeks out, 3 weeks out, and whether that is therefore calculated. And if it's more than X percent, it's not safe. You can't be in that class.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's a little complicated. There is sort of, I guess, backlash in terms of interstate fighters or overseas fighters. How do you regulate that?
Yeah.
Because you don't know what they're going to be doing.
No.
Then they're not going to necessarily be in the state 6 weeks before the fight.
Yeah.
And
every set of
tourism
scales
and money
is
and
different and all this other stuff of like...
It's not a quick,
easy
fix.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's Jess's case. I just thought this one was really interesting in terms of, I love that her mum was so involved. Like, her mum was the one who asked for the inquest. She's been involved in the education side of things. And I think she didn't know much about weight cutting or any of this when
Jess was doing it, clearly.
Yeah, when Jess was doing it. She just was like, okay, I trust you. You're at a gym.
Yeah, you've got some support around you and all that kind of stuff.
She didn't know anything about it, so now she's very focused on making sure it doesn't happen again.
I wonder what the outcome would have been if she'd not been involved.
I don't think it would have
happened.
Gone to an inquest, no.
Yeah, wow. Okay.
Because I think the coroner ended up ruling her death as a misadventure in that she didn't intend for this to happen. But yeah, it wouldn't have been an inquest
otherwise.
Yeah.
I'm glad it is, because this is absolutely something that needs to be addressed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because again, it wouldn't be just Mauy Thai, it would have been so many other sports.
Or any combat sport.
Yeah, and any of them that involve a weight class.
Which is all the combat sports.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair. I guess weightlifting might have similar.
Weightlifting definitely has weight classes.
Yeah. So potentially you're going to want to learn for
But
that.
there's no benefit, I don't think.
No, you still want to be, again, it's the same. If you're a couple of kilos over, you're going to cut weight to get underneath because you want to have the advantage of being at the top of your weight class.
Yeah.
But I guess the risk of losing too much strength with cutting too hard.
So you've got to weigh that up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas I think Mauy Thai is so dynamic in that you need strength, yes, but you also need agility,
True.
And like maneuverability. It's not just one thing that you're doing, it's multiple different things.
Just blows my mind of like how well and efficiently can you train if you are that calorie and water deplete.
Yeah.
Like it would have been so hard. Like how could she even get the energy to keep running?
No idea. No idea.
And also just like blows my mind about like how much resilience the body has.
The body just wants to survive, right?
Yep. To me, it blows my mind that everyone in that arena is doing that, and it's so dangerous.
And it's accepted.
Yeah, it's just
everyone's just like, well, that's what everyone does.
You have to do.
Yeah.
You need to make weight, otherwise it's disrespectful.
It blows my mind that people can do that to themselves.
True.
Like, that is...
Put themselves through that amount.
That is beyond just going on a fad diet for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, and like you get into that sport, and because I think it's so pervasive in the culture that you would know about it when you get into the sport. It's not like you do it as a hobby for a while and then you're like, now I want to fight, and you suddenly find out about the fact that people weight cut.
Yeah.
Like it's very overt.
Yeah.
Throughout
like it's
the gym, everyone who's fighting is doing it. Like, it's just, I guess it's the done thing, and so you assume that you need to do that as well.
It's really one of those things that I think often when you're in that kind of elite area of like say a sport or whatever as well, you kind of end up with all those around you are all in that area as well. That like
all her I think a lot of her friends were in the sport. Her boyfriend
was in the
heavily
sport.
Involved in the
her
sport.
mum was very much helping her. Like how much external factor did she have to turn around and be like, are you sure this is a good choice?
Yeah. And the fact that she'd done a similar thing for her previous fight and had no issues.
But she hadn't had to cut nearly as much.
Not as much, no.
Yeah.
But I guess there's that thinking of, well, I've done it once before.
True.
Not as much, but I've done it. And I've been that way.
And last
before.
time it was easy, so this time will be the same. And you're like... Well,
but actually very different circumstances.
Yeah. And like what time of year had the previous fight been? Was it like nearly as hot?
I think it was October.
Oh, so probably still quite like had a potential to be warm.
Yeah.
Because if it had been like July or something, then like a whole different set of like weather external factors that would influence as well.
Sorry, it was early 2016. But if it was early enough, it could have still been hot.
Summer, yeah. Maybe they just recommend all fights don't happen in the peak of summer.
Yeah. Actually, they mentioned that there was another death in Thailand in 2017 when a young male fighter died of heat stroke due to dehydration while training in a sauna suit outside in the heat. And like Thailand gets hot as well. So yeah, there have been other deaths.
Yeah.
That have involved weight cutting.
Yeah, right. So it's not standalone.
No.
Even without death necessarily. I'm sure there's not standalone in terms of injury.
Yes. And like the doctor mentioned that, you know, even if people aren't dying, they're still doing themselves quite a lot of harm.
Yeah.
They're able to recover from it.
Yeah.
But that doesn't diminish the fact that they've put their body through that.
Yeah.
I couldn't find any other deaths in Australia since 2017, which is
good.
A good thing.
But we had 2 years of not fighting.
Well, yeah, true.
But hopefully it's making good change. And like that was all Western Australian based. So hopefully there are some other state-based regulations being considered as well. Hopefully it's not only WA. And I guess if it's an interstate-based competition, that hopefully if one state has a regulation, the others consider.
That commission is specifically in Western Australia.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how common interstate contests are.
Yeah.
And like I couldn't find any amendments that have been made to that act or those regulations, but it has only been 2.5 years since the inquest. And like changes to legislation takes time. So we'll see how that goes.
Mm. Oh, thank you. That was good.
Oh, that was a very interesting one. The lengths people go to.
Yep. Well, thanks for listening, everyone. We will catch you soon.
See you later.
Bye.